Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 2 for this news report today. It's Monday, January 28th, 2013. I'm Darko. Alright, we left off with here talking about guns and firearms and all that fun stuff. Stephen King calling for gun reforms in a new essay. Then in Australia, gun control lobby begins attack on bolt-action rifles. January 14th, 2013. The gun control lobby may have signaled the start of its campaign to ban bolt-action rifles in Australia after worrying comments from gun researcher Philip Alpers. So he turned the focus of gun control away from mass shootings and focused instead on domestic violence, suicide, and rifles that shoot, quote, one bullet. Guns are a bit like a virus. It says you clamp down on one type of gun, another one pops up, and you have to deal with that. So the individual has been taking recommendations to the U.S. government as it investigates ways to reduce gun violence there as well. Missouri lawmaker from this University City, U-City, wants gun owners to notify children's schools. So here's all the crazy laws that they put in place. A Missouri lawmaker has stirred up a bit of controversy after she proposed a law that would require people to notify their children's school if they own or buy a gun. So it's Senate Bill 124 is meant to stop illegal firearm possession, but they say that they're taking aim at part of the bill. It says that if you own a firearm or buy one, you have 30 days to notify your children's school district. We're not trying to take away anyone's guns, period. We're not even asking what kind of gun you have. We want the school district to be able to say, you know what, there are some really terrible things going on right now. We need to be able to talk to the parent that we know that they have a gun and make sure that there is security, that this gun is stored securely. So the proposal calls for a fine of up to $100. But if a person is found guilty of negligent storage of a firearm and fails to notify a school that they own a firearm, the fine is $1,000. So one person says it's an invasion of privacy. Obviously, why do schools need to know who owns guns and where they are? It goes on here and it says, plus you know where those lists will go. It could end up in criminals' hands. So just like this article where it gives you all this scary statistics, 90% of gun deaths have nothing to do with mass killings and stuff like that. It says the proposed bill comes after a 12-year-old Dimitri Phillips was shot and killed in University City. So said that they were in the house, two were playing with a gun. They found it belonged to the friend's grandmother. So nice little scare tactics at the end of that little PR release. Mississippi weighs bill to ignore federal laws. It seeks to assert the state's sovereignty, basically House Bill 490. But it goes on here as two Mississippi state representatives have filed a bill to create joint legislative committee on neutralization of federal laws. They say the bill is about supporting states' rights and clawing back federal overreach. Quote, we need to do something to stand up for the 10th Amendment, end quote, which says powers not specifically reserved to the federal government are reserved for the states. Another interesting little choice of words that the article used was previous attempts by Mississippi to defy the federal government. It's interesting because the federal government is going rogue or doing what they're not respecting a state's rights. Then actually they're defying the state, that individual sovereign state. So it's funny how they do that, how they make it seem as if, like I remember seeing just a snippet of the Golden Globes with Bill Clinton introducing, the Lincoln movie, which is a big propaganda piece, and he was saying how Lincoln was so great and how it was to maintain our perfected union. He called it perfected union, which he was basically saying was our highly centralized, humongous government, right? Like with FDR and Lincoln, after when they came in, it was about these new deals and huge centralized federal government coming in. But wars help bring about those changes. That's why they like those. That's why I like those big wars, because they can bring about their changes. Because a lot of times people aren't going to just happily accept it. They don't, especially in rural areas, because they're not as naive as people in cities. I'm sorry, but if you live in a city, it doesn't mean you're naive. I find out that it happens a lot. But then we have gun owners refuse to register under New York law after Democrats in New York rammed a sweeping assault on the right to keep and bear arms. That failed to exempt police officers from the draconian restriction. Gun owners and even some lawmakers are planning what has been dubbed potentially the largest act of civil disobedience in history. According to news reports, gun rights activists are urging everyone to defy the far left Governor Cuomo's new registration mandate while daring authorities to come and take it. So, I don't know. We'll see, right? my own personal view on this is that, when you purchase weapons, most of the time at gun shops and stuff like that, you have to get a background check, which is a de facto registration. So I mean, it wouldn't make a big stink over something that, you know what I mean? Just choose your battles wisely, I guess. And the other thing, like I said, is the whole thing about coming for the guns. Some people think that America is trying to be disarmed. And that's going to spark the revolution, It may not even actually occur, the whole gun grabbing thing. It could just be like, it could be the threat of a virus. So let's just quarantine people, and just the threat of people coming to take your guns, and then the revolution starts, the 10%, which, could be what the whole, not the whole alternative, but certain websites are there to engineer the 10% and create that. Then they just come in from the top down, and they steer it. They come in just like in the Jericho series, create a new constitution written by the forefathers or Masons or any other types of globalists or powers that be. But I think that they're arming the citizens prior to the revolution. Florida mom pays to have armed guards at kids' schools. So meanwhile, bullet-stopping whiteboards hit the market. There's also bulletproof backpacks too. So a Florida mom has taken her child's at school security in her own hands. It says by the way of her pocketbook. The Daytona Beach News Journal reports that this individual offered to foot the cost of having armed deputies stationed at her kid's elementary school, and she paid the first 2 months up front at $32 an hour. Wow. So the middle and high schools have full-time deputies, but the elementary school is tended to by deputies who grab an extra shift on top of their normal duties. It's already bad enough that they have freaking cops in schools. They've had that for a while now. I remember back in the 90s they had it in high school. But it's like I was talking about with the NRA. I saw this thing on, I think it was InfoWars, talking about how Pierce Morgan conceded that to the NRA that he's given up. Well, that's like I said, the NRA is an authority on gun owners. They don't speak for me. I think it's just a controlled opposition group. It's like the engineer consent concept. It gives the 10% the idea that we're winning the fight. But kind of like what I talked about too. With that story going back to Rahm Emanuel in Chicago, asking businesses not to do business with gun manufacturers, and that it's all about this voluntary gun control or gun laws, or what I'm talking about. Just gun restricting. So this is like another form of that, where people actually get fooled into this building more of a police state and these re-education camps. Like I said, it's not about keeping people from getting in. It's from keeping these future slaves from getting out. Well, they fell for it, hook, line, and sinker, right? California school district buys 14 military-grade weapons to defend against shootings. California board is being criticized following reports that it approved the purchase of 14 high-caliber rifles to be issued to school police officers responding to campus shootings. So, $1,000 apiece. The semi-automatic weapons are used by both law enforcement and U.S. Special Forces. Another thing I noticed, a pattern recently, is kind of scary, is that that's this whole AR-15 thing. What do we find? We find that the schools are getting them, police are getting them, and stuff like that. So they're disarming certain weapons, and then they're arming those same weapons into the authorities' hands. Iowa City's police to buy AR-15s with their own money. Plan would see $55 deducted from paychecks for 1.5 years. This is in Marion, Iowa, a small city of 38,000. The eastern end of the state plan to upgrade AR-15s to AR-15s by buying $2,000 weapons themselves. So they have 50 strong police force intend to get the new weapon. So it goes on here as the head of the National Association of Police Organizations, which approves the Marion's move. For me, if I had to choose, I'd rather be shot by an AR-15 than a shotgun. Government officials can still own assault weapons under Feinstein bill. Not everyone is exempted from owning military-style assault weapons under the new legislation proposed by Dianne Feinstein. Weapons used by government officials and law enforcement will not be prohibited by the law proposed by the California Democrat, which would prohibit the sale, manufacture, and importation of 158 specifically named semi-automatic weapons and ammunition magazines that hold more than 10 rounds. Any weapons legally owned before the bill's enactment would also be exempt. So, although those firearms would have to be registered in a national database. Says in addition, more than 2,200 types of hunting and sporting rifles and manually operated firearms would also be exempt. So they go in there and they talk about how the gun rights activists led by the NRA, right, controlled opposition. Some Tea Party affiliated conservatives, again, controlled opposition. So, you know, you're going to be able to put up enough money to lobby against these bastards, dude. DHS buys 7,000 full auto assault rifles, calls them personal defense weapons. So another huge blow to rhetoric and narrative of the Obama regime and its desire to disarm the American public. DHS bid has been uncovered, showing that DHS recently put out an offer to purchase 7,000 fully auto assault weapons to be used domestically inside the USA. It says, keep in mind that Obama is on record saying that AK-47s belong in the hands of soldiers and not in the hands of criminals, that they belong on the battlefield of war, not in the streets in our cities. But it seems he really means they don't belong in the streets of our cities unless they are in the hands of Homeland Security enforcers, in which they can be used full auto assault weapons. And more hypocrisy, most of you have probably seen this from the 14th of January, Obama grants himself and George Bush tax-funded secret security for life. So see, this is what I'm talking about. You have the Democrats and Republicans are simply two different branches of the same ruling class who are all friends and accomplices behind the scenes. It goes on here, it says Obama signed into law a measure giving him George W. Bush and future, that's the more important thing, future former CEOs of the corporation and their spouses lifetime Secret Service protection, the White House announced. Interesting article that I saw come out from the 24th. Joe Biden, the vice president, to doomsday preppers, shotguns are better than AR-15s in earthquakes. So he's trying to assure survivalists and those preparing for doomsday that they will be able to protect themselves in case of a disaster, even if assault weapons are banned, because shotguns are more effective weapons for defense. Like what the police were saying, right? A shotgun will keep you a lot safer, like a double-barreled shotgun, than the assault weapons in somebody's hands that doesn't know how to use it, even one that does know how to use it. You know, it's hard to use an assault weapon and hit something than it is a shotgun. The head of the National Association of Police, it's a more accurate rifle, talking about the AR-15, it's more accurate over a longer range. Back to California, who's buying these military-grade weapons. The police chief says, we know that criminals wear bulletproof vests. Our guns are not able to penetrate these vests from a long distance, so we need shoulder weapons to defend innocent people. That went under the radar. Assault rifle not used in Sandy Hook shooting. Homeland Security training TSA workers to save themselves in a shooting. The screeners are receiving training to prepare them for the possibility of a mass shooting at the airport checkpoints. Says that those TSA personnel are being instructed to save themselves should a shooting occur. Which is pretty interesting because someone sent me a link to a video, and then I found the link from in the description there from Lone Star College System, and this is about college campuses, and they have an actual thing for active shooters. And they basically tell you just be a good victim. That good victim mentality. And it basically tells you, you should jump out the windows and you should do whatever you can, but do exactly what the political law enforcement revenue collectors tell you what to do. So it goes on here and it says that if you're in a large room or auditorium, and it goes on and it says drop all bags, keep your hands on your head, move to an exit, do what the police tell you to do. If you're trapped with a gunman, don't do anything to provoke them, don't try to defend yourself or anybody else. It says don't move subtly. If you cannot speak, leave the phone on. It goes on here, it says that, it actually says, if they start shooting, you need to make a choice. Stay still and hope they do not shoot you, or run from an exit while zigzagging or attack the shooter. Well, there you go. So if you choose to run, zigzagging moving target is a much harder hit than straight runner. Playing dead may also be a consideration. It's not recommended to attack the shooter, but remember that you have a choice to fight when there is no other options. Well, that's nice of them to tell you that. That you're not able to really defend yourself with weapons, right, on campuses. What to expect from responding police officers says do as the officer tells you and do not be afraid of them. They're the good guys. A TSA worker said every day when I arrive to work I look for an escape route in case someone opens fire. We have been told to save ourselves in the training. It's unclear whether the alleged training is simply a prudent attempt by the agency to protect its own employees. And lastly, NYPD says department will begin testing a new high-tech device that scans for concealed weapons. A test for terahertz radiation is small enough to be placed in a police vehicle or stationed at a street corner where gunplay is common. Damn. So it says it's the newest asset in the battle against illegal handguns. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.